Akwa Ibom Assembly crisis worsens as gunfire rings out. EFCC charges stockbrokers with conversion of dead man's shares. In international news, explosion at chemical factory in China kills 22. And in sports, Nigeria qualified for 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. The Akwa Ibom Assembly fracas seems to be out of hand now as talks invade the House and previously expelled 5 All Progressives Congress members reconvened with a new mace and initiated impeachment proceedings against Governor Udom Emmanuel. The proceedings were disrupted when the governor showed up and restored the 21 members led by Speaker Onofio Kaluk. They demanded the removal of the Commissioner of Police. One APC lawmaker challenged the governor's intervention and said it violated the principle of separation of powers. This ruckus in the State House began on November 19 when Speaker Luke declared vacant seats of 5 members who defected from the People's Democratic Party (PDP) to the APC. One of the members who defected in Sentue challenged the Speaker's action in Federal High Court and lost. The 5 expelled members were said to have showed up at plenary on Tuesday with a new mace and talks in tow. The governor arrived at the assembly with some commissioners, aides and assembly staff. At least 300 supporters were also reported to have accompanied the governor. The group of 5 expelled members fled as gunshots rang in the air. 2 House resolutions were passed, one to redeploy the new State Commissioner of Police and the other for the arrest of the expelled 5 lawmakers. President Muhammadu Buhari says he has cancelled his planned private visit to Daura. Katsina State has a mark of respect for victims of Boko Haram attacks across the battlefields in the northeast zone of the country. He will instead visit Maiduguri to attend the Chief of Army Staff Annual Conference. The president had also cancelled his official visit to Benin City, where he was to inaugurate the Edo Zero Power Plant and attend the Chief of Army Staff Annual Conference that was to take place in Benin City. It has now been moved to Maiduguri. The Police Service Commission has held a management retreat last week in Enugu State, trying to formulate a new strategy for the police force to tackle security issues and ensure peace in the country, especially in light of next year's election. Police Service Commission Chairman Alhaji Musiliu Smith gave a list of issues the retreat was to address, including security challenges, the police image as elections approach, human rights issues against the police, and improving the force's crime-fighting capabilities in line with best practices. He said the Police Service Commission was already taking steps to answer some of the questions posed. He said the commission monitored officers' conduct during the Osun State governorship elections and set up hotlines for the public to report misconduct by police officers. Smith said the sports teams were also established to quickly deal with such reports and take disciplinary measures as required. The PSC chairman emphasized the need for training and retraining as key conditions for promotions. Olisameto says he's unable to meet his financial obligations now because the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) has frozen his bank accounts. The former spokesman of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) made the assertion at the Federal High Court in Abuja when the case of money laundering against him resumed on Tuesday. EFCC sued Metu and his company Destro Investments Limited on 7 counts of money laundering and fraudulent receipt of 400 million naira from the Office of the National Security Advisor in 2014, purportedly for PDP's campaign activities. Metu told the court that EFCC's action has left him without any means to feed his family or buy things as common as water and Panadol. He said he discovered his account had been frozen when he had a failed transaction on one of his accounts on Monday. After all the talk, the judge said the issue about which Metu had complained was not part of the case before him. He advised him to get his team to discuss the issue with the prosecuting counsel, Sylvanus Tahe, who was present in court. CSL Stockbrokers, a stock brokerage firm, along with 3 others, is facing charges of converting to themselves the 298,500 units of shares belonging to a deceased man, Joseph Adeniji. EFCC says the deceased acquired the shares in Guinness, Nessa Foods, Julius Berger PLC, Unilever, Nigeria, Enamelware and Union Bank. The commission says the shares were worth 34 million naira. The first counsel, Professor Taiwo Oshikwito, opposed the EFCC's attempt to arraign the defendants. He complained that the service of the charge sheets on his clients did not meet the provisions of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act of 2015. He further said his clients will serve the charge sheets a day before the arraignment instead of the 3 days required by the ACJA. The case has been adjourned till mid-December. A Central Bank of Nigeria figures show that the federal government has reduced the total Nigeria Treasury bills issued and allotted in June this year to 1.65 trillion naira from almost 3 trillion naira in the same period last year. This means a decrease of more than 1 trillion naira. CBN says the decrease is in line with Nigeria's medium-term debt management strategy. It says this is because of reduced volume of NTB issues and the redemption of NTBs worth almost 640 billion naira in favor of foreign issues. The report also shows that total public subscription was 3.22 trillion naira against 3.96 trillion naira in the same period last year. CBN's half-year report shows listed reasons for the lower rates experienced in the review period as smaller amounts offered, falling inflation rates and competitive bids. Dr. Folasha Deyemi, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, says domestic gas consumption in Nigeria has witnessed a recent increase from 390,000 to 490,000 metric tons and has a potential of hitting a 500,000 tons milestone in the near future. Yemi said this in Calabar on Tuesday while delivering a speech at a technical meeting of officers and experts for the Third National Council on Hydrocarbon. She said improved penetration of the liquefied petroleum gas with local consumption has been identified as a viable source of stimulation for the country's socio-economic growth in both the long and short terms. The Permanent Secretary added that the ministry had formulated a number of programs and policies towards the effective implementation of the natural gas project, which includes massive investments in product reception facilities and storage depot for petroleum products and gas. She also mentioned enhanced geographical spread of facilities through the establishment of new petroleum product supply and distribution hubs along the Warri-Ogara axis. Coming up, African stories. Ailing Gabonese President Ali Bongo to recuperate in Morocco. And later, international news. Explosion at chemical factory in China kills 22.
You are watching ANN.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Welcome back. This is ENN News. Now to stories making news across Africa. Wife of Gabon's President Ali Bongo has said her husband is expected to leave Saudi Arabia for Morocco on Wednesday. He has been hospitalized there since last month after suffering a stroke. Bongo has not been seen in public since being admitted to hospital during a conference in late October. Earlier this month, Gabon's top court has authorized the vice president to chair the cabinet in Bongo's absence. In a post on her Facebook page, Silva Bongo wrote that her husband's health had improved significantly and that he would travel to Rabat on Wednesday to pursue his recuperation. She also said Bongo had asked advisors from the presidency to join him in Rabat to consult on affairs of the state. Lesotho's members of parliament are demanding that their salaries be doubled so they can earn a living wage and be able to better serve their constituencies. Currently, the lawmakers earn about $2,600 per month, which puts them among the best paid in the country. An average factory worker in Lesotho earns about $140 a month. President Thomas Tobane has instructed the finance minister to head a committee that would study a proposed revised parliamentary salaries and incentive structure. Among the issues being reviewed is the lawmakers' demand in respect of how long they would be eligible for pensions. The United States and others are urging Ugandan authorities to fully investigate a military attack on a tribal king's palace 2 years ago, in which more than 100 civilians were killed. Human Rights Watch says at least 15 children were among the victims of the November 2016 assault targeting a kingdom known as Rwenzururu, whose leader for years has been politically opposed to Uganda's longtime president, Yoweri Museveni. The killings followed clashes between police and followers of the tribal king, who later was arrested and charged along with hundreds of supporters. Many remain in detention. The U.S. and European Union are demanding justice for victims of the attack, whose perpetrators in the police and the military have never been punished. Uganda insists the attack targeted armed militiamen and that matters before the criminal justice system. No arrest of military actors have been announced yet. Ambassadors and representatives from more than 40 African countries and the African Union (AU) have visited China's top political advisory body in Beijing. Amy Roslyn Babandamana, a representative from the Embassy of the Republic of the Congo in Beijing, expressed her thoughts on the meeting. The 18th Beijing Summit of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, where the African community of a shared future became a consensus between the two sides. They believe the visit would help promote implementation of the result from the FOCAC meeting and enhance mutual understanding and trust.
Component of the affinity and the cooperation between China and Africa is not something new, and now it is what these FOCAC meetings cemented that relation.
Cordial relations are essential among nations. Tanzanian President John Magufuli says he prefers Chinese aid, which comes with very few strings as opposed to Western aid. This is very likely in response to pressure from Western countries and its policies, especially towards gay. 2 weeks ago, Denmark suspended about $10 million in aid because of what he called unacceptable homophobic comments by a Tanzanian politician. China has made a big inroad across the African continent and has become a major investor in Africa, chipping away as Western influence in Africa. Magufuli made the statement at the opening of a library at the main university in the commercial capital, Dar es Salaam. China had assisted in building the $14 million library. A new Cape Town-based startup is bringing hope and dignity to thousands of domestic workers and cleaners around South Africa. Sweep South is an on-demand service that allows prospective employers to book a home or office cleaning service from a database of thousands of domestic workers around the country. The workers have all been trained and their backgrounds checked. They have all been interviewed as well. There are more than 1 million registered domestic workers and cleaners in South Africa, and even more remain unregistered, existing on an unlivable wage and mostly poverty. All that could now change is at the swipe of a touch screen as Sweep South begins to sweep in new changes to the way domestic workers are employed in the country. The cleaning service is app and web-based and provides a platform to thousands of domestic workers and cleaners to formalize themselves within the cleaning sector workspace. When we return, international news. Explosion at chemical factory in China kills 22, and latest sport. Nigeria qualified for 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup.
You are watching ANN.
MTN gives 2,000% bonus for reactivating your MTN SIM. That's right. If you haven't used your MTN SIM for 45 days or more, recharge now and get 2,000% bonus. That's right, 2,000% bonus for your first recharge of every month.
Shining our eyes on breaking news, whether in the east or in the west, with Al-Shabaab in Somalia and Boko Haram in Nigeria, with turbulence in the north and agitation in the south. Wherever you live in Nigeria, wherever news happens in Africa, we've got it covered. ANN News, connecting Africans in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News and international news. An explosion near a chemical plant in China's northern Hebei province early on Wednesday killed 22 people and injured 22 others. A video of the blast scene in Zhangjiakou city shared by state media showed billowing black smoke and flames, while photographs showed rows of burned out cars and trucks lining the streets. State media said all fires at the blast site had been extinguished. Zhangjiakou is a city about 156 kilometers northwest of Beijing. It's set to jointly host the 2022 Winter Olympics with the capital Beijing. 3 decades of swift economic growth in China have been marred by incidents ranging from deadly mining disasters to factory fires, but public anger over safety standards has grown. China says it will retaliate if the United States sanctions its top official in its far west Xinjiang region over alleged human rights abuses. Chinese Ambassador Qin Jianko compared actions in Xinjiang with U.S. troops battling the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, ISIL, also known as ISIS. He told news agency that China's efforts to combat international terrorism were held to a double standard. Beijing has faced an outcry from activists, academics, foreign governments and the United Nations over mass detentions and street surveillance of the minority and other Muslim groups in Xinjiang. The European Union has signed with Afghanistan a financing agreement worth millions of euros during a key summit focused on development and the war-torn country's economy. The aid agreement made on Tuesday at the Geneva Conference on Afghanistan is worth more than $500 million to support state building and public sector reforms, healthcare, law enforcement and elections, as well as to address migration and displacement challenges in Afghanistan. The EU says it stands side by side with Afghanistan and its people to build a stronger future for the country. The 2-day summit in Geneva is billed as a platform for the Afghan government to renew its commitments to reform and discuss aid contributions in its bid to achieve stability and security. Ukraine's parliament voted on Monday to impose martial law in the country to fight what its president called growing aggression from Moscow. This follows a weekend naval confrontation off the disputed Crimea Peninsula, in which Russia fired on and seized 3 Ukrainian vessels amid renewed tensions between the two neighbors. Western leaders and diplomats have urged both sides to de-escalate the conflict, and the U.S. blamed Russia for what it called unlawful conduct over Sunday's incidents in the Black Sea. Russia and Ukraine blamed each other in the dispute that further ratcheted up tensions ever since Moscow annexed Crimea in 2014 and threw its weight behind separatists in eastern Ukraine with clandestine support, including troops and weapons. Meanwhile, Ukraine's top diplomat in Germany has urged Berlin and other Western states to extend sanctions, ban energy imports, and put the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline on hold after Moscow seized 3 Ukrainian ships near Crimea. The ambassador even raised the possibility of sending German Marines to the region. Republican Cindy Hyde-Smith won a U.S. Senate special election runoff in Mississippi on Tuesday, defeating a black challenger after a campaign that recorded the history of racist violence in the southern state. The former state legislator, who was appointed to the Senate in April, overcame a controversy over her comments on public hangings to defeat Democrat Mike Hesby in the last contest of the 2018 election cycle. Hyde-Smith is the first woman elected to Congress. If Hesby had won, he would have been the first black senator from Mississippi since shortly after the Civil War. Up next, sports. Super Falcons qualify for 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
If you know fit go internet or follow for Twitter, you know fit stop for Tosend or get it for Tosend. Now because you dey use Palasa, your phone no dey answer. See me see wahala. My brother, go get smartphone, yeah. Palasa phone. Phone wey no go for your hand, yeah. Palasa phone. Phone wey no fit take selfie. Palasa phone. No be correct phone, yeah.
Upgrade to a smartphone today and get double data for 6 months on any MTN data bundle you buy. Simply purchase a smartphone from any store anywhere in Nigeria or bring your current smartphone from any network. Insert your MTN SIM card to start enjoying your double data bonus. Offer is open to all new and existing MTN subscribers. Join the largest smartphone movement today.
Make it up for your
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News in Sports. The Super Falcons of Nigeria beat the indomitable Lionesses of Cameroon 4-2 on penalties in the semi-final of the ongoing 2018 Women's Africa Cup of Nations on Tuesday. Nigeria finished second in Group B after 2 wins and a loss, while Cameroon were top of Group A with 2 wins and a draw. Cameroon star Ajara Nick Choate was voted Woman of the Match as she played a crucial role as indomitable Lionesses pressed the Super Falcons. By winning the semi-final game, the Super Falcons have qualified for the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup in France and will face either the Banyana of South Africa or Mali in the final of the AFCON 2018. A German man who launched a shrapnel bomb attack on the team bus of football club Borussia Dortmund in April last year to make money on the club's shares was sentenced on Tuesday to 14 years in jail. A court in Dortmund found 29-year-old Cedric Verdengold guilty of 28 counts of attempted murder after he detonated 3 explosive devices while the bus was en route to the stadium for a Champions League game last year. After an 11-month trial, the trained electrician who was born in Russia was also found guilty of causing an explosion and 2 counts of causing serious injury. The blast wounded Spanish defender Marc Bartra and a police officer. That is the news this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on this and other stories, visit the website cnnafrica.net. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at CNN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.